Session storage, local storage, and cookies are three separate ways that you can persist data in a user's browser. But what are these things and what are the differences between these three? Well, those are the questions that we're going to answer right now. So let's start off with session storage. So session storage is a way for you to persist data through the current session. But what is a session? Well, a session is connected to the current browser tab. So every time that you create a new browser tab, that's going to create a brand new session. And these sessions do not swap between browser tabs. They're independent based on the current browser tab. And once you open one up, it's going to create a brand new session for that specific tab. And then of course, if you close one, then that session is completely over. It no longer exists. So it's a very short-term storage solution in the user's browser. So the way that we can manipulate session storage is we can say session storage, and we have four different options that we can use to manipulate the session storage. We can get an item that already exists inside of session storage that's going to grab the value for that item. We can set an item, which allows us to add an item to session storage. We can remove an item, which completely removes it from the session storage, or we can clear all of the session storage all at once. So let's go ahead and get started, and let's set an item first. So to set an item, these items in session storage, and this is the same for the other two as well, local storage and cookies, is we are going to utilize key value pairs, just like we would in something like an object. So the first value that we have to pass in has to be a string for both values. The first value we pass in is going to be the key, or the identifier for that specific session item. So let's say we want to store something, maybe a short-term password, which is not a good idea. I do not recommend it, just as an example though. So let's just say we're going to store this pass key as the key for this session storage item, and we can set something like this is my pass for the value of this session storage item. And then once we save, we can head over here to the browser and we can actually view our session storage items inside of the browser. So head over to the application tab in your DevTools window, and you can see all three of them. Local storage is here, session storage is here, and then cookies are down here. So we'll check out the session storage here. So as you can see, I've got two different items. This looks like it's from live server, so it really doesn't matter. We can go ahead and delete that. And then we also have this pass key that we just created over here inside of our code. Now to see that this is based on the current session, let's just go ahead and comment this out and save that real quick. And that is not going to remove, that may refresh the page, but that's not going to remove any of our session storage items. So that's going to persist through that reload as well. But let's go ahead and open up a new tab for the exact same page, and let's just go ahead and inspect over here. So if we look at our session storage now, we can see that we have two separate session storages within the same browser, just on different browser tabs. So this session storage is persisting for this first tab that we used, but it's not going to relay that information over to the new tab. It's specific to this very first tab in which we created it. Now, some other options that we have for session storage, we have the ability to get an item as well. So we could get an item, and all we have to do is pass in the key for that specific item. So it has to be this key value over here, not the actual value. So if we pass in the pass key, and let's just go ahead and save that to a constant. I'm just going to call it val. You can call it whatever you want. And then we could just console.log that val value. Now, if we save that and we go over here to our console, we can see this is my pass. The same exact value that we stored over here inside of our session has been logged out to the console, and it's been saved inside of that val constant. Now we also have the ability to remove an item. So we could come down here, we could say session storage dot remove item, and we could pass it the key to the item that we want to remove. So if we wanted to remove that pass value from our session storage, we could pass it the pass value or the pass key. And if we save that, then we are going to first, of course, log out that value from where we got the item here. Then we over here have completely removed that item from the session storage. And the last option that we actually have is to remove everything from session storage. So we could say session storage dot clear, and that is going to clear everything from session storage regardless of its key or value. Now local storage is nearly identical to session storage, at least in the way that we can manipulate it. It has all the exact same methods that we have on session storage, but there's a key difference between session storage and local storage. So as you already know, session storage is based off the current session, but local storage is a much longer term solution. Local storage is generally used for things like long-term storage. So if you wanted to store something for a much longer period of time and persist beyond just the current session, local storage is going to be the option that you choose. So of course, just like session storage, we can also access local storage just by saying local storage, and then we also have the exact same methods as we did with session storage. So we could say local storage dot set item, and we could set an item real quick. This is my pass, and we could say some val. And if we save that, and then we go over here to our local storage, we can see the key of this is my pass, and with the value of some val. And then, of course, we can get that item, so we could say const val is equal to local storage dot get item, and we could pass in this is my pass, and then we could console.log that value. And if we save that, it should pop up over here inside of the console for us. Then, of course, we also have the local storage dot remove an item, where we can completely remove an item from local storage just by providing the key. So we could say this is my pass, and if we save that, then that item is going to be completely removed from local storage. And then we also have the clear method, where we can say local storage dot clear, and this is going to clear everything from local storage. Now to take a look at this for just a second, we can actually get rid of all of this here, and let's just go ahead and add that item back to local storage. Now if we actually create a new tab over here, and then we inspect, and we go to our application pane, we can actually see that this is persisting beyond just the current tab. This is persisting beyond the boundaries of session storage. So this is a much longer term solution for anything that you might want to persist in a user's browser. So let's take a look at something a little bit differently, because cookies are a little bit different in the way that they're created and the way that they're utilized inside of a browser. Now, just to be clear, generally, cookies are not created in the browser. Generally, cookies are created by the server and then sent to the browser by the server. And this generally happens because most of the time the server is the one that needs to utilize the cookies. So it's going to create that cookie, and then it's going to be sent off to the user's browser to then be sent off to the server for subsequent requests. And we'll talk about that later on whenever we get into things like authentication and other aspects of the stateless HTTP protocol. But there are situations where you may need to create a cookie inside of the browser. So let's just go ahead and take a look at how we can create cookies, because they're basically the exact same from the server side and the client side. So the way that we could create this cookie is we could say document.cookie. And then we could set this equal to a string value. And this string is going to contain all of the different parameters that we need to create this cookie. But what are the different parameters for this cookie? Well, let's go ahead and take a look inside of the DevTools here. So the first values we have here are the name value, which is the cookie identifier. Then we also have the value, which is the actual value of the cookie. This is just like session storage and local storage with the key and value. Now we also have some other options here. The first one being the domain. Now cookies are created with the intention to be sent to a server. And whenever you create a cookie, the domain is automatically set to the current domain that the cookie was created on. So if you created your cookie on google.com, it's only going to be sent to google.com whenever you have that domain active. Otherwise, if you have something like twitter.com, it's not actually going to send that google.com cookie to Twitter because it's not part of that specified domain, so there's no reason for that cookie to be sent to that other server. Now, the path option here is a little bit more secure than just the domain option, but it works together with the domain, because when you have the path option set, and this is an optional one that you can set yourself, it will only send that cookie not only if the specified domain is active, but also if that specified path is active. So let's say again you want to log in to google.com, so you have the domain of google.com and then the path of maybe /auth. So whenever that specific domain and that specific path are met, then that cookie is going to be sent. Otherwise, it's not going to be sent. So you have to go to the domain google.com with the path /auth, and then the cookie will be sent. The next thing we have is the expires /max age. Now, the expires is how long the cookie is allowed to stay alive and how long it's actually valid. So whenever you send this to a server, it's going to be validated that it has not expired yet. So if a cookie has been expired, it's not going to be accepted by that server. Now we have the size option here, and the size option is just an automatic value that is set whenever you create the cookie. It's just the size of the cookie itself. Then you have the HTTP only flag. Now the HTTP only flag basically does a few different things, but for the most part, it basically just tells the browser that scripting languages like JavaScript are not allowed to access or modify this cookie. This is generally set for things that are secure, like authentication tokens. So on the client side, if this HTTP only flag is set, JavaScript cannot modify it. The next option we have is the secure option. Now the secure option is a flag that is set whenever you want to only send it over a secure protocol. So you have HTTP, which is the unsecure web-based protocol, and then you have HTTPS, which is a more secure web-based protocol. So if this secure flag is set, then you will only be allowed to transmit this over the HTTPS protocol, but not the HTTP protocol. Then we also have the same site option. Now the same site option has a few different values that it could possibly be, and this is just another security measure on top of everything else, basically saying that if this flag is set to a specific value, then this cookie can be sent on other sites' requests. So if I'm trying to log into Twitter and I want to use my Google account to log into Twitter, I can send this cookie to Twitter, and as long as this flag is set properly, I can send that authentication token of Google's to Twitter, and then Twitter can utilize that to get my information and create an account or log me in based on that cookie that was sent. Now we also have the partition key, which we don't really care about right now, and then we also have the priority, which we're not going to go into right now either. But these are the different options that we have available to us whenever we are creating cookies. Like I said, some of them are able to be set and some of them are just automatically set for us. So let's go ahead and utilize some of these and create a cookie. So we'll go ahead and create a cookie here. So the first thing we need to do is we need to give it a name and a value. So we could say auth is equal to this is not auth, and then we can separate each specific value by a semicolon. And then maybe we could set maybe the max age. We could say max age is equal to, and the max age is going to be set in seconds. So maybe we want this to end in 20 seconds or expire in 20 seconds. Now, if we save that, we're going to get the name with auth, then the value, this is not my auth, then it shows the domain of the current domain that was active whenever this cookie was created. So this is just my local server that we're creating it on. Then the path is /, and this just basically means that it goes to everything on this site. And then it has the max age here, which should be expired by now, to be completely honest. Then we have the size of 17, which is the size of the cookie. Then none of this other stuff is set. And that is how you can create a cookie using the JavaScript client. Now, like I said before, cookies are generally created on the server and then sent to the user. It's generally not created on the client side, but you still can do it, and it's still something that you may need to know how to do in the future. And with that, I think I'll wrap everything up with cookies, session storage, and local storage. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments section down below. I'll answer any questions that you have. Otherwise, if you did like the video, make sure you slap a like on it. Check out the full playlist, link is right down there. Make sure you subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.